Okay.
Everyone, welcome to another podcast from Path Builder on our Pathbreaker podcast series, where we talk to individuals from various sectors of the social impact space, where they share sort of experience, roles for freshers in their specific space. Today, we have a good friend of mine, Suraj Sudhakar. I'll let him sort of introduce himself, what he does, and what he's done so far. Suraj, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Amit. It's good to be here.
Great. Suraj, start with just talking the listener in terms of your experience and how you've come to start your own social enterprise.
Sure. So, Amit, as you know, or for your audience, I'm an engineer by academic training and qualification, and I began my career at Cognizant in Chennai. It's around this time that I also started volunteering through a program at Cognizant with an orphanage, which really got me thinking about some of the many social challenges that were that we were facing in India. Prior to that, I never really thought about doing anything in the social sector, with a very middle-class Indian upbringing, we're focused on my 10th, 12th, getting an engineering degree probably. So, and this is around the time that I came to know about Ashoka Fellows and social entrepreneurs. And I was totally enamored by what that kind of career pathway could offer. And I was lucky to be able to join Paul Basil of Willgrow pretty early in my career. So I jumped ship from Cognizant, started my social sector career at Willgrow, where we, try to build a rural retail chain, market innovations in rural India. And then I got curious about the idea of venture-backed social enterprises, which took me to Acumen, which took me to Africa, where I spent the next 8 years in a variety of different roles. And it's during that time, I had a little bit of a crisis in terms of, hey, even though I was learning a lot, I was doing some fantastic, very interesting work. But I always had this kind of something nagging me, saying the whole idea of getting into the social sector was because there are so many social challenges in India. That got me thinking. And one of the other insights that I had was that, hey, I need to social problems, if you need to tackle, it takes years to solve them, right? Or, even make an dent on them. So I wanted to pick a problem which was large enough that would keep me occupied for the next couple of decades of my life. And I was surprised to find that one of the biggest health challenges are non-communicable diseases, even before the COVID onslaught. So that was it. I decided to set up CoolCoach, which is a social enterprise which tackles non-communicable diseases by bringing the benefits of fitness coaching to one and all.
Got it. Yeah. So you set up your own social enterprise. Tell us a little bit more about what CoolCoach does and how it addresses the issue of non-communicable diseases amongst you.
Fantastic. So, non-communicable diseases, there are a bunch of risk factors, right? So, and 4 of the main risk factors are, inactivity, nutrition, alcohol consumption, and probably drugs. So we don't tackle drugs and alcohol consumption, but you can reduce the incidence or the risk of NCD significantly by getting people to move more and eat better. But, as all of us probably will identify with, we all know that we need to be more active, move more, but it's very simple, but not easy to implement. Same goes with eating better, right? We all know, home cooked, healthy meals are probably more healthy, but we eat out, we eat junk food, all of that. So we need to eat better. And the way we tackle that, as I said, is by bringing high quality fitness and health coaching to all, with a focus on underserved, underprivileged, and low income populations. Now, specifically, we do 2 things. One is to train sports persons, again, a focus on sports persons from underprivileged families, and help them become fitness coaches. So this has 2 outcomes. One is these this very active population of sports persons who otherwise did not have a career opportunity, which matched their passions, are now into well-meaning, well-paying careers as a fitness coach. For your listeners who may not know, the fitness industry is actually one of the fastest growing industries in India. Even with the lockdown, when gyms were closed, more people actually took to fitness. The second outcome by training these low-end sports persons to become fitness coaches is that they become role models in kind of the communities where they come from. So as many of your listeners might be aware, fitness, the ideas around fitness and nutrition have become very commonplace amongst middle class India. Everybody knows about it. Everybody is probably wearing a fitness tracker. Amit, are you wearing one right now?
Yes.
A fitness tracker?
Yes.
See, there you go, right? Everyone is aware, but this knowledge and information seems to not be as prevalent amongst low-income families. So by training these sports persons, we kind of want to disseminate and make this knowledge accessible to. The second thing that we do, and this was kind of our COVID response, is where we provide fitness coaching to all kinds of folks. Again, here we have a huge set of customers who are just looking to get fit, but we also have programs specifically for schools. We have for athletes, we have for kind of young people who we call fitness ambassadors. Again, we do have a focus on folks and schools from low income areas or underprivileged areas. So those are the kind of things that we do.
Got it. And from our earlier conversation, I remember you mentioning that you are currently looking for applicants for the fellowship program. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Oh, absolutely. So our flagship program is the CoolCoach Fellowship Program. And the fellowship is modeled on the very famous and kind of very successful Teach for America, which was the first one, and then followed by even Teach for India Fellowship. So how our fellowship works is we pick these incredibly talented sports persons and train them for a month and then place them at schools as physical education coaches. Many of your listeners may not be aware that there's a huge shortage or almost absence of physical education coaches in many of our schools. And by placing these talented sports persons as physical education coaches, we are one, getting all these young students in schools to move. And secondly, we constantly upskill these young sports persons so that at the end of the fellowship, they can begin their careers in the fast growing fitness industry. So as things have opened up and schools are finally open again, we are kind of launching the CoolCoach Fellowship Program. So we're looking forward to kind of getting more and more applications. People can find more information on our website, which is coolcoach.academy.
Great. And for the listeners, if you know anybody who's interested or would be a good fit for the fellowship, we will also have the link available in the description section. So please do check that. Suraj, with your vast experience, I think we could do multiple podcasts, but today, what we want to talk about is you as a founder of a startup social enterprise. And for the listeners, what I want to hear from you is one, whether you look at hiring freshers. So freshers, we talk about people with about 0 to 3 years of work experience. And if you do hire them, like as a startup, at what capacity do you hire?
So we do hire freshers in a nutshell. Mostly, as I said, if you look at the fellowship program, and we have opportunities for coaches to join us in a lateral form also, coaches who have got certified, otherwise are outside, they can come and join CoolCoach. So there we actively look for freshers in the kind of 0 to 3 years old. Now, 3-year experience range. Now, in addition, for every function that you could imagine, right, whether it's marketing, whether it's now specifically social media marketing, whether it's program development, right? And within program development, I mean like, hey, coach training or, the ed tech aspects. Now, every aspect of our work, we do hire freshers. Now, I want to speak a little bit about at CoolCoach, what we are trying to kind of build is this expert apprentice model. As a small organization, as a growing startup, what happens is we do need expertise in these functions. So for example, whether it's a marketing expert, whether it is someone with finance expertise, someone who is kind of an expert in designing vocational training programs. But we do hire these experts kind of on a consultant part-time basis, because there isn't as much work to kind of justify someone on a full-time at the stage we are.
Got it.
And we kind of complement them with kind of the old school apprentice model, right?
Yeah.
So at CoolCoach, what we would like to have or look at in a fresher is someone who has a decent idea about in which function would they want to kind of build their expertise.
Got it.
And secondly, work with someone who has a lot of industry experience, who is an expert in that field, who will guide them and mentor them. So kind of to explain it another way, the experts are the part-time consultants who come with over 10 to 15 years of experience.
Yeah.
They will kind of look at the strategy for the organization, kind of guide how we should be moving. And then there will be apprentices, or these freshers who will get to do a lot of the heavy lifting under the guidance of these kind of rockstar consultants. So if there are people out there amongst your listeners who are looking, who already have a sense of, hey, I want to build my expertise in sales, I want to build my expertise in, vocational training development, do reach out to us. So I'm also saying that, hey, if you are looking for a generalist position, maybe CoolCoach is not the right place for you.
Understood. Yeah, no, I think the key for any young professional, I think, is just that first step of figuring out what like function or team that they would want to work in, and that sort of helps with the job search as well. Just building on from what you said, right? So if somebody is interested in marketing, they know they need to do some course, some knowledge about, let's say, digital marketing, vocational training, some skills around sales. Beyond functional skills, right? As a founder, what do you look for in candidates?
Okay, it's a very good question. So, one is probably, let me start with just the basics. And when I say just the basics, as I mentioned that CoolCoach is bringing fitness coaching to all. And while we are kind of in the social sector, fitness coaching also by definition qualifies to be under the kind of service sector, right? So when you're in the service sector, certain things around, being punctual, being accountable, being dressed appropriately, being groomed well. So these are not kind of, fixed. We at CoolCoach, we don't have kind of fixed guidelines of, everybody should look a certain way. That's not what I'm getting at. But these, basic understanding of how you present yourself, be punctual, arrive fully prepared for the task, for the meeting at hand. Those are first like basic things we look for, right? The kind of as a first cut for kind of people. Second is in terms of skills, comfort with technology and basic uses of a computer or a laptop. Now, that might seem strange that I, mention this, given that, hey, we've gone through 2 years of COVID and probably everybody has been online. But our learning has been that, people just know how to open a document, maybe on Microsoft software or on Google, but getting really decently good at making documents, whether you're using some online collaboration software or whether it's Microsoft, making presentations, you being comfortable with a laptop, internet use, all of that is the second level of skill that we would want to kind of really look at. The third thing that we look at is a fresher's ability to be kind of committed and learn something new. Now, when I say committed and learn something new, this could be, they can give examples of stuff they've done in their college or in their earlier work experience where they've picked something and gone really deep and kind of understood something. So this builds on kind of what I said about we are more of people who understand, have a sense of which direction they want to move in. So rather than people who have done lots of things, and not gone too deep, we look for examples of them having gone deep and learned something from that experience.
Got it.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. At least for me, it's quite clear. I think those combination of for me, what I say intangible skills, which shows a level of professionalism that I think is key. I know personally I've rejected a number of candidates just during interview and just how they've conducted themselves. Right?
Correct.
I think we live in a world where I think almost 80% of our work is done online, and even if you're not an Excel ninja or a Google Docs expert, your willingness to learn quickly and yeah, I think that's what I've heard from you. So it's just breaking it down for the listeners, make it even simpler.
Yeah, and if I may just add something, because you earlier said, you learn from books, this ability to find what to learn and do it by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Taking that initiative, I think, is very important.
Yeah.
So, thanks for clarifying.
I agree. And I think the next question that I have is, somebody joins a startup as a social enterprise startup as a fresher. What are different sort of career progressions that they can look at? Let's say, somebody starts working in CoolCoach, they're not going to spend the rest of their life at CoolCoach, right?
Right.
Do you have conversations with people you hire in terms of just guiding them? Or what would be advice that you would give them from a career progression point?
So I think the first advice, and this is based on kind of my own experience, right? So one is, I have found very often people join the social sector with, yes, this idea of doing social good, but secondly, this idea of I think misguided idea that social sector organizations are inherently better than the private or the corporate sector. I don't know if you have come across this. So my first level of guidance is, hey, remember, organizations are at the end of the day made up of people, right? And try to figure out how organizations work. So don't be hung up on this idea of I want to be working in the social sector. So kind of get that clarified for yourself. That's one. The second big piece of, I think, advice over the last couple of years I've found giving people is this idea of what is your ideal lifestyle? Because I think people don't think hard enough about what lifestyle they want, right? So for example, if you imagine your future to be filled with, travels around the world, fancy vacations, buy a good car, and these are all, I think, absolutely normal aspirations to have. The social sector pay scale may not kind of, account for these kind of aspirations you have. On the flip side of it, it can be like, hey, very exciting, when you hear of some of your peers who've gone into the private sector, and hear about their pay scales as a consultant, their ability to travel, but then also ask about the pressures of delivering at work, right? How many weekends do you actually have to enjoy the place you're at, or the kind of, some of the conveniences and luxuries that probably money can afford. So I find early in the sector, people don't think about this. So, just this idea of what is your ideal lifestyle? Do you want to kind of put your feet up next to, serene mountain, read a book over the weekend? So to kind of think through and build their lifestyle as they think about their career. The third aspect, and I'm just going to leave your listeners with that, is also to think about life stages, right? Like the kind of life we might live as singles, early in our careers might be very different if you think of wanting to have a partner, a family one day, or you have ideas of taking care of your parents. So just to factor all these in as you're building your career also. So sorry, this was less about the social sector, but more in general about how to think about career.
No, I think it's still sort of useful advice. Just in terms of thinking about career, especially, I think there's a lot of apprehension, especially for young people and their parents, when they think about a career in the impact space from a remuneration point of view, and the framework that you provided, just thinking that through, right? I think it's good. Great. Cool. We're almost running out of time. Last quick advice or hack for freshers, let's say, who are looking to find jobs within the startup ecosystem in social enterprises.
Yeah, so I do. So, I think freshers, and we all probably fall for it, which is kind of, um, I'm going to give two hacks. So one is we get excited about the size of the organization, or, what kind of brand an organization has. I would encourage freshers to really ask and understand who they'll be working for, who is going to be managing them, because their experience in the social sector, and I've always claimed this, I think I remain in the social sector today because of my experiences with Paul Basil, who's a very well-respected social entrepreneur, and he's established Will Grow, Mentera, and doing a bunch of things, because the way he managed me and the way he created opportunities for me very early in my career. Right. So researching who's going to be managing you, getting more specific on that. And similarly, being very open about, as the companies or organizations you're interviewing with interview you, please interview them about these aspects too. Who's going to be managing me, who's going to be kind of looking after, me as an individual, and what kind of opportunities am I kind of going to get. That is one. Second is the hack is around, again, as I said, people might be enamored by a large organization because of the brand and their visibility, which is great. And what very often you will get in a well-established organization is a well-established role, right? Which kind of defined parameters, which performance is kind of already understood, and what to deliver, which can be great in one way, right? The other is for a smaller organization, which is just up and coming, you might find yourself, you're closer to the leadership. You are more of from the bird's eye view of where the organization is headed. You might get to sit in on meetings where you get the flavor of what are the different departments in an organization. So as a fresher, to again be smart about making these decisions. And I would like to add, as you said, your listeners might be concerned, their parents might be concerned. The first 2-3 years of your career don't make or break you, right? So don't be too harsh on yourself if you pick a small organization, right? These learnings can be immense. Similarly, don't be too harsh on yourself. If you pick a big organization, get a small role, but you're not involved in these kind of high-level discussions. So those are my two hacks. Find a great manager and make up your mind as to what would you like in the first 2 years. A fixed role with ability to deliver, or kind of a spread out role where you'll get to know the different aspects of running a social enterprise.
Thanks, Suraj. And I completely agree with the advice and hacks that you provided. I think both our careers sort of stands testament to that. And we can reflect back and clearly see, having made those decisions became game changer. Right? And the way our managers, the good managers molded us, also made sense.
Absolutely.
So that's all the time we have. Suraj, once again, thank you for joining. And to the listeners, thank you for listening in to another podcast from Path Builder. Do follow us on LinkedIn. And if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, please do that as well. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, Amit.